curious to hear about this concept of generosity purpose that you talk about and how it can relate to us making more money.
Yeah, Jill, let me tell you a story. So, a gentleman named Dave came into my office a couple years back, and I could tell by his body language something was wrong. And he began to tell me about the business he had started, but he no longer felt like he was motivated to go into the office. He enjoyed making money, but he began to wonder, is there more to just making money in his life? And he built the business with his kids. I mean, it was a very successful business. And for some reason, the words just shot out of my mouth. Is there a cause that you care about? And I imagine Dave in the moment because his eyes were big as saucers and he just was perplexed by the question. And I said, is there something that you really care about? And he began to tell me a story that when he and his family went overseas, they went to a village, and the guide that was with them talked about how this village needed a schoolhouse built, and the lack of education was holding back this entire area. And he remembered exchanging a glance with his wife back and forth as if to say, wouldn't it be cool to fund that school? Now, they got back to the States, life got busy, the business, family, etc. But my question brought that back to him, and I said, what if you did this for the next 6 months, Dave? You set a sales goal, and you took half of that increase and used that to fund the school. Well, he pondered that a bit, and we exchanged some more small talk, and he left the office. He comes back in 3 months later, noticeably different. He looks younger. He looks invigorated. He looks excited about his job. And I said, Dave, the difference between you now and 3 months ago is striking. What happened? He said, Derrick, at first I was skeptical about what you said about this whole generosity purpose, as you call it, setting a goal to make more money, to give more money. But I said I didn't have anything to lose. So he called each of his clients and let them know going forward, the company's generosity purpose was to take a small portion of their profits and help fund this school. Clients got excited. He got reinvigorated to generate more business. And he said, we're now making more money and we're actually giving more, but we're still making more. And the point of all that is it taught me a lesson that if you're a business owner right now and you feel like your product or service has been commoditized, that people can buy it from anybody, when people see you as a generous person, as a giver, they have more trust in you, they like you more, and they're often willing to pay you more money to buy your product and service. But for those people listening who aren't a business owner, if you just want to be remotivated to go make more money and use it for good, pick out a cause that you care about. Maybe it's an injustice in the world, a wrong you want to right, something you might have seen as a child growing up, but you felt like, do I have enough money to make a difference? I want to give you permission to re-engage that internal conversation and use the cause that's important to you to go make more money, and not just to build up your bank account, but to use some of it to really make an impact in the world.
That's awesome. I feel like sometimes when we are trying to talk about making more money in our jobs and so often we don't want to get greedy. We don't want to be those people that are like evil with money. And,
Right.
and we don't often think about how much more generous you can be and how much more you can fuel the passions that you love by making more in what you do for 40 hours a week. And so I love that you've like nailed this down to like, and you've named it the generosity purpose.
Well, and it's so important because if you think about a struggle that I had, and that was many years ago, I really wrestled with giving money because the concept in my mind was, if I give money, that's taking my hard-earned dollars and I give it to an organization, that means I lose and they win. It was a lose-win situation. Now, I didn't feel bad about it because I enjoyed giving money to the cause, but I was still sacrificing, giving something up for them to gain something. And what I wanted to do was just appeal to people's almost selfish nature of, look, what if we could reverse that and say, pick out a cause you care about and use that to make more money. And then you're giving more money, which when your customers and clients see that, even your community sees that, they want to do more business with you. So it's always this now perpetual way to keep making more money and doing more good. So there's really no limit to it. It's just a matter of how you think about it and getting over the hurdle of how will people feel about me, or what will they say when I propose my generosity purpose to them. And what research tells us, and I'll give you a quick example. One of the ladies I quote in my book, her name is B. Bocalandro, and she does a lot in terms of speaking to companies about giving. And she told me a story about, Derrick, when you watch a commercial and it involves giving, maybe it's save the whales, help clean up the ocean, let's stop hunger. It causes this reaction in your brain that's similar to looking into the eyes of the person you love. Now, I mean, that is so cool to think about, that our brains respond to giving in such a favorable way. So what it taught me was that if you're thinking about a new way, especially post-COVID, to launch your business or to think about your money, attaching a cause could be one of the most powerful decisions you ever make.
It sounds like you are a big help to Dave, this Dave over here who represents a lot of other Daves.
Or not his real name, but it's a true story.
Sure.
Yep.
Yes, that's amazing. Derrick, what do you think is so powerful about connecting money with purpose? Why do you think that propels us so much more than anything else?
You know, when you think about like one of your favorite movies, you know, one of mine is a movie called Braveheart. There's a lot of movies out there, but it's sort of this movie where a character at the end of his life reflects back on, I wish I would have had more meaning and fulfillment while I was living, not as I was preparing to die. Okay. And so this whole concept that I think the culture teaches us is, you know, live your life. And then when you die, that's when your legacy occurs. That's when any money you've saved up that you want to give to a cause or your family takes place. And what I want to do is let's short circuit that and say, how would you feel if every single day when your head hit the pillow at night, that you were paid what you were worth, that you added maximum value to all those around you, be it your customers or your trusted relationships, family, friends, etc., and you felt fulfilled? You know, you think about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs starts off with the basics of, you know, paraphrasing here, pork and beans, rice, then we get to the steak, and then we get to the ultimate fulfillment. And I think people in their mind have been taught, or they've watched this example growing up, that you've got to pay your dues. You know, there's the haves and the have-nots, and our family are the have-nots. And if we had more money, then we could do more in the world. And there's this scarcity mentality, and it's real, and people have seen it, and they lived their life into it. But it really bothers me at a deep level, and it's just not right that people may be held back by what someone told them, that they're bad with money because you made a really bad decision with money. It shows that you're really bad. You'll never get paid more than what you're making right now. All of these are beliefs that we take on, and I really want to dispel those, take a big eraser on their whiteboard of their brain, and let's begin to recraft this story about, how can I, listening right now, have fulfillment and meaning? And what I find is, you know, I like money. Money is like a game to me. And I think a lot of people, if they're honest, like money as well. But it's sort of in that forbidden fruit category of, I don't talk about sex, religion, politics. Now we're going to put money over there as well to kind of hang out. And if we can begin to have a dialogue about money and the good it can do, I think it's a very empowering conversation for every family in America right now.
I appreciate the permission that you're giving here, Derrick, with connecting greater purpose to what you do. I come from a social work background, and so throughout my career up to this point, many people will say how amazing that must be to have such fulfillment and purpose in the work that you do. And there was something just, I never liked how that sat. I'm grateful in some ways. They're like acknowledging, and it's a version of gratitude for what I've set my hands to, but it also lacked that recognition of what other people might be setting their hands to, and the purpose behind that as well. That it's not just, unless you're a teacher, a doctor, or a social worker, then just forget about it. You don't give back to the world. And this kind of opening up our mindset and perspective to, we could be setting our hands to anything, and where we can find purpose in that, whether it's directly in the work or peripheral to the work, what the finances can afford for you, there's purpose in all of it. We're all needed. And so this perspective shift, this mindset shift of do what you're doing, do what you're good at. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but find purpose in it. Find your why, connect to generosity and giving back, and keep going. I think it's creating so much freedom and permission in this message.
I really like that, because one thing that I found is that money flows where value goes. And if you're adding immense value to people's lives, you can't help but attract more money. If you can identify the pain points people have, for example, if you're a mom or dad listening right now and your son or daughter is struggling in school, there's a pain point. And if you can find a way to help them just ease that pain out of them, and you can help walk alongside them, well, now you're adding value. And you built up trust, which could lead to a good money conversation down the road because you added value to them first. And that often comes back around. But for people listening that may wonder, how can I grow my business? How can I make more money? It's all about adding value. And I want to tell you a quick story about that, because so many people, and I suspect many of your listeners may be the same way, and they may have overcome it already, but our bad money beliefs can really hold people back. Because if you're struggling with your relationship with money, you're definitely not going to have a good relationship with giving. The two just aren't going to work in the same pattern. It's kind of like when you're with a friend and you bring a third friend and you do something together. It's sort of like three's a crowd. There's one person that's sort of out, and giving for most people is that out relationship. So I came into the office on a Saturday morning to catch up on some things, and I saw the voicemail light blinking, and I had to make a quick decision. Should I press the button and basically go down a different path I had planned on, or just keep working and catch that message on Monday? But there was a voice inside me that said, Derrick, you need to listen to this message right now. I pressed the button, and to my surprise, I heard a woman's fear and anger coming through this phone and leaving me a message. She said, Derrick, you have to call me back immediately. I bounced a check I wrote at the store, and they're going to take me to jail. Well, if you can imagine, I've never heard anybody say that before. So I quickly called her back and I said, first of all, tell me about the check. She said, well, I forgot to move money from savings to checking. When I wrote the check, I got the letter in the mail, the non-sufficient funds letter from the bank, and now I'm going to go to jail. I said, okay, first of all, I'll call Monday with you to the bank. We'll make sure the money is taken care of. We'll take care of the bounced check. But why in the world are you thinking you're going to go to jail? So she begins to tell me a story that when she was 7 years old, keep in mind, she's 55 years old right now, she overheard her dad receive a phone call from the store owner that he had just bought some school supplies and so forth for her and her siblings, and he had accidentally bounced a check. And the owner said, because you bounced a check, I'm going to send the cops to your house and have you arrested and hauled off to jail. So this 7-year-old girl lived her entire life thinking, if you screw up, you're going to go to jail. Well, that moment gave me such insight into her, because we had worked together for the past 15 years, but many times as I would recommend investment ideas to her, she would balk at it. She wouldn't do them because there was some hesitancy that I couldn't put my finger on. And most times it made quite a bit of money had she said yes. And what she realized, and I realized, was she had held a false belief for almost 50 years that held her back in her job from making more money, from getting the raise she wanted. And I suspect people listening right now, if they're honest, they might have heard someone say to them, hey, you're not good with money, or because of a mistake someone else made, if you make that same mistake, then you're doomed not to make any money. So I just want to tell people right now, let's make the baggage a bit lighter. When you fly, they only allow a certain amount of weight on the airplane. Let's use that same approach with your money. Let's keep it light, maybe what fits in a little pouch on your waist, and the other money past has already passed. We need to let that go today.
Oh my gosh, so much good stuff already. There is everybody has some kind of baggage with money. And I think that that's such a great shift to think you can't take all the baggage with you. Let's let go of some of it. And I think one of the ways you do let go of some of it is learning more, truth and reality about money. So I you have so many like great things you talk about in your book. But something you talk about is kind of teaching your money to make more money. Can you kind of tell us how to do that? Because I think it will help us even if we want to be more generous with what we have, like learning this might help us, give us the freedom to do that.
Yeah, so what I would say to that is I encourage people to live their life like they own it, not like they're renting it from someone else. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what that means is that so many people think they go to a job in the morning, they come home at night, and then they press repeat the next day. And that goes on Monday through Friday. You savor the weekends, and then Sunday about 4 o'clock, you're like, oh no, the process is going to start all over again. And what I encourage people to do is have a plan for their money. And better than that, in simple terms, think of yourself as the CEO of your money. You know, if you were the CEO of a company, and I suspect several people are listening to this great podcast who are CEOs, you have a plan for your money, a plan for your people, a plan for your processes. There's always a plan you're working for. And so if you can know before each dollar is earned where it's going to go, you're a lot more motivated to make more dollars because you feel in control of the money you make.